Chapter 3 The True Meaning of the Mahayana. The Buddha said to Subhuti, all great bodhisattvas should subdue their minds in the following way. They should vow to liberate all sentient beings. Whether they are born from eggs, from the womb, from moisture, or spontaneously arise. Whether they have form or are formless. Whether they have perception, lack perception, or are neither perceptive nor non-perceptive. Thus, they shall lead countless beings to complete nirvana. Yet, in truth, no sentient being has been liberated. Why is this so, Subhuti? Because if a bodhisattva holds onto the notions of self, person, sentient being, or a lifespan, then they are not truly a bodhisattva. What is the true essence of Mahayana? In this chapter, the Buddha reveals one of the core teachings of Mahayana Buddhism, defining what it truly means to be a bodhisattva. All great bodhisattvas mahasattvas must subdue their minds by abandoning defilements, klesa, and attachments. The Buddha classifies all sentient beings into four modes of birth. Egg-born oviparous such as birds and reptiles. Womb-born viviparous such as humans and mammals. Moisture-born moist incubation, such as insects and microorganisms, spontaneously. Arisen upabatika such as celestial and hell beings, who are born without parents. Despite vowing to liberate all sentient beings, the Buddha states that not a single being has been truly liberated. This is because sentient beings inherently lack self-nature svabhava and have no fixed, independent existence. If a bodhisattva perceives themselves as someone who saves others, then their compassion is tainted by ego ahamkara. True liberation arises when one realizes that there is no independent self, no separate being, and no inherent entity to be liberated. The four false notions, self, person, sentient being, and lifespan. In this section, the Buddha introduces one of the most important doctrines in the Diamond Sutra, the four false notions. Notion of self-atman bhava. The belief in an independent, unchanging I. However, both self and external phenomena are constantly changing. Notion of a person pajala bhava. The assumption that humans possess a unique, fixed essence. Yet all living beings are interdependent and lack inherent selfhood. Notion of a sentient being sattva bhava. The idea that living beings undergo rebirth as a fixed entity. However, there is no permanently existing soul or consciousness that transmigrates a birth. Occurs through causal conditions pratitya samutpada. Notion of a lifespan jiva bhava. The mistaken belief in a continuous, unchanging life force. The self does not persist across lifetimes, it is merely a stream of conditions. A true bodhisattva must abandon all four notions, as clinging to these concepts obstructs the realization of emptiness sunyata. The doctrine of emptiness sunyata is reinforced in the Prajnaparamita Sutras, including the Diamond Sutra and the Heart Sutra. One way to understand this is through the five aggregates. Pancake khanda, form, the physical body, constantly changing. Sensation, feelings that arise and cease. Perception, mental recognition, shaped by past experiences, mental formations. Conditioned thoughts and habits, consciousness, awareness, dependent on causes and conditions. Since each of these five aggregates is impermanent, the self that we assume to be real is merely a temporary combination of conditions. This is why the Buddha states, if one sees that all dharmas are empty, they see the Buddha. The Buddha acknowledges that in conventional reality, relative truth, samti satya, bodhisattvas vow to liberate sentient beings. However, in ultimate reality, absolute truth, paramarta satya, there are no beings to be liberated, because all phenomena are empty of inherent existence. For example, when a teacher helps a student, there is no fixed teacher nor fixed student, both roles are conditioned and impermanent. A wave in the ocean appears distinct, but in reality, it is inseparable from water. Similarly, bodhisattvas engage in compassion without attachment, realizing that saving others and saving oneself are non-dual. The modern world is filled with attachments to identity, status, and external validation. People believe that wealth or success will bring happiness. They must compare themselves to others. Their thoughts, opinions, and emotions are an intrinsic part of who they are. However, the Buddha teaches that all these attachments are illusions. Happiness is not found in external objects, it arises from wisdom and non-attachment. Self is not a fixed entity, it is a changing process. Just like the elements of nature, good and bad are subjective. Concepts or perceptions change based on conditions. For example, some people love snow, while others dislike it. Some view money as a blessing, while others see it as a burden. Beauty standards differ across cultures and time periods, proving that they are not absolute truths. Since all perceptions, emotions, and external circumstances are impermanent, true peace arises only by letting go of attachments. Even scientific observations support the Buddhist concept of interdependence, pratityasamutpada. The earth is constantly changing. It has existed for 4.5 billion years, yet has undergone endless transformations. The nature of glass, a classic Buddhist debate. Some Buddhist schools argued that the blue tint of glass was its intrinsic property. However, Mahayana scholars correctly stated that its color was dependent on light refraction, just as modern science confirms. Water does not inherently wet. In certain conditions, water becomes ice or vapor. The wet quality of water is not an absolute essence, it arises only under specific conditions. Similarly, all things exist due to causes and conditions. No entity has an independent, permanent identity. A bodhisattva does not cling to notions of self, person, or attainment. The Diamond Sutra teaches that there is no inherently existing self, anatta. Humans have no special essence that distinguishes them from other beings. Rebirth occurs through conditions, not through a fixed soul. Life itself has no eternal, independent substance. Thus, when Subhuti asks, how should a bodhisattva abide? The Buddha replies that a true bodhisattva does not abide anywhere. They practice selfless action without attachment, realizing that the greatest compassion arises from emptiness.